You're not Aaron.
Thank God.
You don't want perfect hair?
Can you imagine him without hair though? What's his like thing gonna
He
be when he goes
he gets
bald?
old.
What like
Mm.
is it gonna be his voice? I don't know.
The golden, yeah, okay. I'll ask him that on like opening day and see how he
That's
feels about that
that's
question.
important. I want to know the answer
Charles,
to
how
that.
are you? What would you do if you were bald? Okay, fuck you. I'm like, all right, thanks, Aaron.
These are the important questions.
That's a cold open I didn't expect to use. Well, here we are. It is Mariner Mondays. It is. This will tell you how busy of a week it's been, not only, to an extent with the Mariners, but also in general, because I did not realize that Justin Turner's comments came over the past few days. I thought we had talked about them last week. No, I think I had mixed them in with the Jerry DePoto comments that we have heard about already. I completely forgot that the Justin Turner comments about that everybody knows, right? This is not like new information that Justin Turner is mentioning or saying that's coming out of his mouth. No, this is all normal stuff. So, Bob, or as some people will say, because he makes mistakes, Boob Nightingale had a USA Today column with Justin Turner, new Chicago Cub, right? Basically lamenting Seattle's lack of improvement to their lineup this offseason, which again is nothing new. It just has magnitude because Justin Turner said it, right? Um, there's a lot of good quotes in here, so I'll try to like get them all or a good amount of them out there at least. But one of them was the fact that they missed the playoffs by one game and didn't go out and add an impact batter too when you have the best pitching staff in baseball seems absurd to me. As much as I wanted to be back there, if I was the only piece you brought back in, I would be saying the same thing. What the hell are we doing? Are you trying? Um, he said there's not going to be a better time for it, so I don't know what they're doing. I'm very confused. It's a head scratcher for me. I told them several times this offseason you have a unicorn of a pitching staff. This might be the best five starting pitchers in the history of the game. I mean, find a better five man. It's true. Um, Again, none of this is new information. Justin Turner didn't drop any bombshell surprise. He just had the balls to say it. Granted, he is on a different team, right?
Mhm.
But he had the balls to say it as someone that was beloved by the Mariners. Again, maybe I remember this because I did it in one of our Around the Sound episodes that I'm doing, the daily things. So I remember talking about it. That's probably what it is. Uh, um, like when two of your leaders on this ball club, and I wouldn't say Luke Raley is the biggest leader, but he's there, right? When Cal Raleigh and Luke Raley like have the utmost respect for a guy, um, it has weight, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, it's all been said, Brittany, but like,
it has all been said. What is super interesting to me is not actually his comments because it's again like yes, we know and we've heard this and it is just reiterating kind of what fans have been saying for forever. But what's interesting is Ryan Divish's follow-up article in
yeah,
which current players spoke to him anonymously, which kudos to Divish for wanting trust of guys to like get these comments anonymously. I think that's awesome. Uh, just flat out saying, yeah, 100%, no duh. And we all feel that way. And glad he said it because we can't say it. And then also just kind of accepting it as the norm. Like,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think any intelligent baseball fan like would know, can see what's been happening here. Um, we haven't had direct comments like that from players yet. You know, we've had, I think the closest to that is Cal calling them out after 2023 elimination. And
And
even
then
that's
the
not a total
ensuing
direct,
apology.
and then being forced to apologize, which I'm not going to get back on my whole thing about that. But you know, I I have been interested to know if there's any like clubhouse shakeup or turmoil from any of this. And they're professionals, so they're going to go out and do their thing anyway. But it very clearly is a topic of conversation, so much where they're all like, yeah, like, no shit. This is, yeah. And then, yeah, right?
Who would do that?
It is also interesting to note that Cal and Justin Turner became very, very close over the, I don't know, 3 months he was with the Mariners, however long he was. And
Mhm.
they spent a lot of time together in the off season. And Cal went on Justin Turner's wife's podcast, and they're talking about how wonderful Seattle is and how loyal the Mariners fans are and how incredible, the Mariners fan base is because they've gone through so much. And I 100% believe that Justin Turner's comments are not only fueled out of just honesty, but loyalty and love for his friendship with Cal and Luke Rayleigh and just respect for those former teammates because he recognized, well, they can't say it, so I will say it for them. So kudos to Justin Turner. Kudos to Ryan Divish for getting some anonymous comments from players. Also, is anything going to change? No,
No.
unfortunately.
That's the thing. I want to take. I said this, I think, on our Sounder show, but I like doing these shows, right, with all these different people because they get viewpoints and there are a lot of brains that are brighter than mine, and then I can sit here and I can put little bullet points in them, right? Um, yeah, with the nothing changing, because as much as angry fan online like Billy Bob 64892 3 will be mad at me for not like writing Jerry DePoto hate sludge every 2 minutes. We've had that on this show too, by the way. Early into the show. They seem to have calmed down. But like as much as folks think that'll do something, it's been done before. Just because you haven't seen it or the fact that it's been done and now that we've moved on because it hasn't done anything, as much as you've missed it, doesn't mean it hasn't happened. Like we've said it on this show. I've written it in gamers before too, not just like specific piece. Like I've had to write, "Oh, you guys struck out 18 times again today in September, and the reason you're 3 games out of a spot is because you've lost what, like 15 games by one. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
the point
Yeah.
has been made.
Yeah, it has been.
And so I think two of my points are mixed together here. They can go together. Um, the comments, it's funny because like, yeah, it's Divish is a pro. Again, I would love to model what I do after Divish. In some ways, Divish isn't on here doing well. No, I lied. He does show up on camera and do things, even though he doesn't like it. So I guess there's one way. I don't want to move to Montana, so I'm good at that.
No one does.
Um, but like being able to do that, like have the respect of player, have the trust of players, because he didn't need names. It doesn't need to be certain guys. Like the fact that
Oh,
these are pros on your roster that are saying, "Oh yeah, we know this." It's not a surprise. Like what he said is factual. Nothing he said is wrong. That's all that needs to speak,
yeah.
right? Um, I had a third one, and then I kind of lost it, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, But yeah, I mean it's oh, sorry. With Turner, like again, he was only here a handful of months, and the one of the comments that I didn't get to was him talking about the fan base here, talking about how people want it. There's the passion for it, they deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes again to what we know, and to just the utter failure here. Like everything I've learned just about capitalism for one, and about sports and as a business, right, is that if you need to spend money to make money, right? Um, Owners see that. I mean, they're not maybe not the most like efficient example per se, but the New York Mets are going to make a shit ton of money. I bet they already have made a shit ton of money, right? Like
The Dodgers.
yeah, that was the next one. Like the amount of money that they're gonna make off of those partnerships or whatever, just for Shohei alone, let alone yeah, Yoshinobu,
Oh my God.
Roki now, like um oh God, they signed the Kim guy too. Jesus fuck. Wow, that was early into the show. Um,
It's a
right?
good business model.
Yeah. So all of that, um, it's and Brittany knows this as well. Anybody who's been around here knows this. When this baseball team is performing well, you can't walk a few city blocks without seeing a Mariners logo in some way, shape, or form. It's a different vibe, different energy in the air around here. I'll never forget because I used to work at the Kraken team store in South Lake Union. This is from Costco though. God bless Costco. Woke Costco. Sorry.
We
Um,
love Woke Costco.
so does the money too, apparently. Anyway, and like getting on line bikes to go down to the games from South Lake Union to the ballpark when they were so close, right? And then they eventually clinched and won, and got into the playoffs. Like it was just a different energy. And even deep into the seasons in these last few years around 2022, because they've been close, right? Like when they would make their miracle run in August, right? It's a different atmosphere, and more fans thus come into the ballpark, spend their money. They're having more fun. They're buying the Julio jerseys. Like, ugh, yeah, none of this is new. It just, again, like the bulletin board for the bulletin board just grows, I guess. We're adding more bulletin
Yeah.
board. So, all right, that's a hell of a way to start the show. But
Right?
again, it's important, and I am surprised that I forgot that it happened over the course of the past week. Um, Jesus. Anything else from there before we move on?
No, no.
Um, yeah, I know this is something I'm 99% sure we said last episode was that we were hoping to see more from the regulars in these games, right? And then I liked that as like what was it? The Monday this came out. Yeah, like I think Cal homered in this one. Yep, Cal homered
Sure
in this one. I
did.
said, "Oh, perfect. Thanks, dude."
He heard us.
Um It's funny, Brittany made a comment to me because we're gonna need to talk about a few of these guys, right? One of these guys is Miles Mastrobuoni. And in this first game against the Guardians, 2 hits, 3 ribbies. Well, and he played in center field. Okay? Put a peg, put a pin in that, right? So Cal, this is funny. Cal pinch hit in this one for
He did
Jorge
pitch it.
Polanco, which was
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah,
unique.
I thought that was interesting.
I was like, okay, dude.
Why not?
Um, Yeah, Dom Kenzone 2 hits in that one. I don't really care. Sorry, buddy. Julio, the next day, 2 hits, 2 runs, 2 ribbies. No homers. Yeah, nice. Okay. Wait, no, yes, 1 homer. Sorry.
I
No,
was gonna
wait,
say the next
two
day he had
homers.
2 homers in one game.
I was looking down at hit by pitches and pitcher
Oh,
stats.
okay.
That's
Yeah.
my fault. I got excited. Oh yeah, that was right. Because that game, Julio did that, and Cal had 1 hit, 3 ribbies. Randy got a hit. Luke got a hit. Yeah. So like
Yeah.
over the course of the week, obviously they didn't hear us. Hey, maybe they did. But the starters kind of did turn some things on, which was really encouraging to see. Obviously, we'll hammer it home. You don't need these guys to bat 300 through the spring. I don't think that's realistic. I don't think that matters the most. Um, get through this. That game not so. Oh yeah, the 5-5 tie. I hate that about the spring.
Ties
You
suck.
cowards. Oh yeah, Blake Hunt hit a tank too. Yes, Blake.
He did.
Catcher three. I don't know, Doug. Randy, that's right. Randy in the game against the Cubs, 2 hits, 2 runs, a ribby. Jorge Polanco at third base. I think
Exists.
that was the first third base game.
Yeah.
1 hit, 1 run, 2 ribbies. Rowdy Tellez, we continued to get rowdy. Another tank um, in the game against the Cubs, and then the game against the Rockies, which was today, Sunday. We record these on Sundays, typically at least. Um, oh, JP went long, which like he
Sure
was a
did.
guy I kept looking for. I was like, hey, I kind of need you to do something. He's been hitting the ball hard though, if I can remember correctly.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I think that's like again, we can't I don't think it's efficient for us to go through every single game and talk about every single game in depth, right? I don't think that's worth it. Um, but I think my big takeaway, Brittany, this week, before talking about other guys, because I know you peaked a few of the other guys, right? Was the hitters, at least the regulars doing some things. Luis Castillo looked good today, if I remember correctly. Luis M. Castillo. I gotta clarify. Brian Wu had a great outing. Logan Gilbert on Saturday kind of had a yucky ucky one. But like again, most of the guys that this season will be built on, um, being somewhat productive, somewhat important in this past week is what stood out to me.
Yep, totally. All of the above. Great to see Polanco not only playing third, but go yard. Um, I still don't know if I feel like he looks healthy to me. He looks kind of the same that he looked last year, which we know to be unhealthy. So I don't know, got to sort out how I feel about that. But that was really good to see. Good to see Cole Young getting play in the field because he had, I think it was a shoulder, something in his arm that was bugging him. Um, Brian Woo's disgusting. And we are going to get to the point where we have to stop calling him a fifth starter
Mm.
because that's just not going to fly. I mean, he has ace stuff and six strikeouts in 2 innings. I don't care that it's spring training. His stuff looked so good. So, I mean, I'm always excited about Brian Wu. That really amped me up to look forward to this season for him. God hope, knock on all the wood, that he stays healthy. That's really the thing with him. If he can stay healthy, he is he's different. And you hear it too when Cal talks about him. I love listening to Cal talk about Brian Wu. He talks up all of his pitchers. You know, he always has glowing
Mm.
things to say about Logan and George and Luis, but he has a different edge if you listen when he talks about Brian Wu. He uses words like special and different.
Yep.
And I think in the podcast he was on with Justin Turner's wife, he said something like he has it, like it. That's different, man. So I am really excited about Brian Wu. And it was really, really good to see Logan Evans have a good outing. He had a rough two first outings. He had a really good outing. God, when was it? A few days ago? The week just blends together.
Yeah.
That was great to see because God forbid somebody else in the rotation goes down. But it's possible. This is so normal. I
Yes.
think as Mariners
Yes.
fans, we have grown accustomed to this life of
You've
starting
grown
pitchers
accustomed to historic performance.
and them being healthy.
Yeah.
Like they have been so lucky with the health that they have had from their starting pitchers. Many teams will experience one or two guys, if not more, going down in their rotation in a season. So Logan Evans is that next guy up. I was really happy to see him have a good outing. I don't know that he's MLB ready yet. He's still learning, but his stuff is really good. So, yeah, that was really good to see. That was probably the highlight of my week, quite honestly.
I think because he had a really good game outside of what he gave up a tank. And I was like, I think I only saw the homer and I was like, oh boy, here we go again. And I didn't realize it was just the homer that day. And I was like, oh, good.
He was
Um,
locating really well and his stuff was moving. And that was really great to see.
yeah, so that's nice. Again, I think we talked about him last week because of a bad outing, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so I was like, oh man, like a little bit of worry, but also understand. I was like, he'll be fine,
He's a
right?
kid. He's
Like
still
he
learning.
doesn't build this up. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
guy that someone that I had our minor league writer Cube do a thing. I was like, hey, I want just like a guy at each level. I want to know who you're excited for. And Michael Morales was a guy, and I remember Michael
Mm.
Morales because he would do this thing where he'd have these great outings and then he'd just kind of fall apart last year. right? And Kate over at Lookout Landing actually did a great piece on him. And she, I
Mhm.
remember she posted it and she was like, he's gonna do bad today, isn't he? Because she posted on his
And
start date
she
for him.
posted it, of course.
Yeah. So he's fun, but yeah, just like with a bunch of these guys who are kids, like they'll go through their things. Even these starters this year, like I remember that last year where one of the guys occasionally would have a bad outing and people would be all
Yeah,
over him. I'm like, one, I think two, we're taking immortality for granted because this is historic.
of
Like
course.
what they're doing. Like and I do this too. And it's part of the reason I get so excited and I need to get back to the ballpark is because what we see on a day-to-day basis will probably never happen again with
Right.
how pitching is going, right? And how arm injuries, like sorry, had to do that again. With Gritty in the corner, by the way. Um, like
Knock on all the wood. They've been so lucky.
so, it's historic. We're growing accustomed to immortality and we're maybe taking it for granted, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
ownership is doing that. Um, so, it is fascinating. Oh, I wanted to say with Brian Wu, I remember he had a great outing towards the end of the season. And Cal had been on some show and he talked about Brian Wu in a different way. And you
Mookie
might
Betts
have made a
podcast.
yes, and you might have made a comment on it or something, but I remember we got him that night and I said I made sure to mention that to Cal and he seemed to like that. So
Yeah.
I sure if I go back in the logs I can find the exact outing and on the Mariners media site I can find the audio. But yeah, I made sure to ask him about that. Maybe I'll do that again this year. We'll do more of a piece on it. But
Yeah, he's
um
special. One thing with the younger pitchers, I really encourage folks to, instead of watching bad outings and taking information from that,
mm,
take information from how they respond to that, right? Because younger pitchers are going to have bad outings. That's going to happen. Just accept it. It can either be a bad outing or it can be good information. And good pitchers that are going to be MLB ready take bad outings and make them into good information. And that was what I was so encouraged to see from Logan Evans after a couple clunkers. And it wasn't even anything super terrible, but the game sped up on him and he got hit hard. And then he adjusted. He made adjustments. And that is what you want to see. And so with these young guys, that is what we should be looking for. We should be putting a little less stock into the actual performances here and then looking more at the adjustments.
yeah. Yeah. And that's always the big thing. I think in baseball especially, but sports are all about adjustments, right? But especially in baseball when it's 162 and again and
Oh.
again and again, and there's now so much video, right? So much that people will blame a bullpen decision on every analytics that exists, right?
Of course. Of
Um,
course.
I want to talk about. I'm gonna keep all of the sort of like player stuff that's like, excuse me, performance based in this.
Hmm.
Miles Mastrobuoni, talk to me. Like, he's first of all, as Brittany pointed out to me before we started, and as I mentioned when I was going through the games, he's playing center field. He's hitting for the spring. I'm gonna get the full slash on here. Oh God, he's just got such a strange beard. Like some people's faces look like they're meant for beards. He doesn't. I don't. Sorry. I get it. The guy without hair is making a hair comment. Calm down.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Hey, you watch it.
You said it. You
I'll
said
get
it.
you some Nair. I'll get Nair and we'll fix this. Um, 467 average, 529 on base percentage, 1.196 OPS. Obviously, it's not, you know, winning the World Series because of Miles Mastrobuoni right now. If they do, I'm coming back to this clip. Um, but it's fascinating, and it's especially fascinating because he's playing in center field. We know he can play in the infield, right? And I know that, as I mentioned with Divish earlier, the great Ryan Divish, um, his latest opening day roster had Miles Mastrobuoni on it as the last infielder. I just can't look at this, see him hitting well, see and see the weirdness of this infield, and then see him playing in center field, as Brittany mentioned, like they're finding him a roster spot. It all but seems like that. And we know how the Jerry Dipoto regime, I was going to say Scott Service, but obviously Scott's not here. The Jerry Dipoto regime has a hard on for guys who can play outfield and infield, right? You can go
Oh,
down the list.
yes.
They found Sam Haggerty playing time. Like, all respect to Ham. Oop, I almost did say Ham Swaggerty. All respect to Sam Haggerty, but Jesus Christ. So, I don't know, man. What are you seeing with this? Because this is,
Yeah.
hmm.
Look, he's had a good spring. Um, I can think of a lot of players who have had good springs. Cooper Hummel comes to mind. So that's all good and fine.
No, they killed
It,
Kyle Lewis for him.
it's all good and fine. Am I all aboard the Miles Mastrobuoni trade? No. Um, I would like to see him maybe hit the ball hard against some more competitive pitches and pitchers. But he's had a good spring, and it's starting to feel like Leo Rivas maybe is not that shoe in, and it's going to be Mastrobuoni just because they put him in for Julio today. And so he has now played first and third and outfield. Um, who knows? Maybe they see something that we don't, and they have figured out how to evaluate hitters well. Miles Mastrobuoni does not have a good track record.
Mm-mm.
He only has a couple cups of coffee in the big leagues. He has a negative WAR in the big leagues. He has a 25 WRC plus with Tampa Bay in 2022 and a 73 WRC plus with the Cubs in 2023 and a 36 WRC plus last year with the Cubs. Um, Now, 29 years old, he's not exactly a spring chicken. So is this kind of his last chance, maybe? And they're saying, hey, go get him, kid. Let's go. Let's do this. And then if it doesn't work out, he has an MILB option. Leo Rivas comes up. I don't know, but it is hard when somebody performs in spring training to not reward that. And
Yeah.
he's been hitting the ball. He gets up to the plate and he's been hitting the ball. So I don't know. Maybe I'm a skeptic. I like to think I'm actually an eternal optimist, but I am really skeptical. And when I saw that he was slotted in the roster today as center field, like on the bench next to his name, it said center field. That's when it clicked for me like, oh, they're trying to get him in. They're trying to find a spot for him. And if they do, they do. You have Rivas, you have Shenton. You can do a swap, not a big deal. He has an option. I would be really curious to figure out what the heck they see, other
Yeah.
than hitting mediocre pitchers.
Well, now I can go. We're gonna take a brief detour, and I can talk about my Pacific Coast League champions, the Tacoma
Mm,
Rainiers, because
please, yes. Charles is going to be spending so much time in Tacoma this year.
you be careful. Okay. Um, it's very funny to look at this roster, right? Because obviously it's very suboptimal when you're talking about the major league infield, just because of how many you've everybody hears about how good the hitting prospects are, but they're not ready yet. They most likely won't be ready, I imagine. We really won't see one hit the tower unless we get an injury, which they always seem to.
See one hit the
Um,
tower?
yeah, I said that. Uh, until what, like the summer, right? Like second half of the season. I don't know. Like I don't think Cole Young's that ready yet. I have to see him in AAA.
Yeah.
So, help is on the way, dear, like that meme, but in a year. Like we really shouldn't see them on a consistent level unless again someone somehow seems ready to get going um until like 2026, right? But that also means this awkward point there's going to be a good amount of talent in AAA. And I was talking to Brittany before we started this, and I was like, holy shit. Like, All of these guys who aren't gonna make it, like these tweener guys, these quad A guys, are gonna be hanging out in Tacoma, killing the Pacific Coast League. Like your outfield, these are your top three, because you'll get other guys like a Samad Taylor can play some outfield, right? There's some other guys. I had my prospects list up here, and I'll pull it back up. But anyway, your top three outfield, unless I'm forgetting somebody, is Dom Canzone, because he's your like poster boy quad A guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Cade Marlowe, who, you know,
Cut the strikeouts down, and man, he can rake. Kid can
yes,
rake in
yes, he's got
AAA.
speed, he can cover some ground, so on and so forth, right? Like that's all fun and great. It's not ready yet. Well, yet. And then, like again, this is a guy I talked about with our minor leaguers when we announced, I think, the non-roster invitees was Rylan Thomas. I thought he played like at least numbers wise, he was good when they acquired him, what, in the Ryan Stanek deal.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's the next second coming, but it's not bad. So you've got that, in the outfield, and then your infield looks some way or shape or form like this, with Tyler Locklear at first, Cole Young at second, Leo Rivas at short, and Ben Williamson over at third base, and Austin Shenton's your first guy up the bench. And then who knows what the hell Rowdy Tellez is doing if he wants to hang out, like.
Totally.
So
And then
there's
you've
your
got Logan Evans
DH.
on the mound.
You've got Logan Evans on the mound. When George comes back, Emerson Hancock comes and hangs out. And who's catching those guys but Harry Ford, who I think, did you mention him in this one? Time is fake, but he's
I
been
haven't
hitting pretty
mentioned him
well.
yet.
Okay, it was off the camera. All right.
Yeah.
Who's been hitting the ball pretty decently well in the spring. So
He's
all I'm
raking.
saying, and you're gonna get a bunch of guys that are gonna be their reclamation projects in the bullpen. So all I'm saying is that you can put your deposit down now if you're a serial bettor, which we get a lot of those in the comments. They always end up angry at me because I basically tell them I don't care about your bet. You can put them down for Pacific Coast League champs right now.
Yeah.
Riley Pay's call for that championship game will be wonderful. Like I will, yeah. Anyway,
You'll be there for that.
sure, yeah, sure. Anyway, yeah. No, I mean it's just funny to see that again because so many of these guys aren't ready as much as some fans want them to be ready. I don't think they are. I don't think it's fair to them and their development, nor to the big league
Totally.
roster, because then you're teaching kids on the fly,
Totally.
right? Um, Let me see. Oh, yes, you wanted to talk about Julio, which
I would
we all
love,
do,
yeah.
but I'm curious.
Well, and this is nitpicky, but I think we get to be nitpicky with Julio a little bit because they have developed and built this team in a manner in which, as they say, the Mariners go as Julio goes. So I have been really encouraged by his consistency from last year, keeping a lot of what he did to end last season. Love to see the 2 home runs. Where I would have loved to see a better adjustment is in at bat number 3 after 2 home runs, because he was swinging out of his shoes in at bat number 3 after he went yard twice the other day. And those are the kinds of little tiny adjustments that I would have loved to see him just going for a base hit. Yes, a 3 home run game would be lovely and great and is the kind of epic shit that Julio is capable of and that he wants to be capable of. But in order to best serve the Mariners, he needs to not be chasing sliders a foot off the plate, right? And swinging at stuff in the dirt that the
Yeah.
catcher is having to block. And so I watched that happen in the one game. And it just kind of caught my eye of like, ooh, like I hope Edgar's in his ear after that at bat of, hey man, you didn't have to be trying that hard
Yeah.
and over swinging. He was over swinging. And it was very reminiscent of early 24 Julio instead of latter 24 Julio. And then today he had some bad swing decisions again. Actually, a lot of bad swing decisions. In one at bat, I was watching on game day, and there was not a single pitch he swung at that was in the strike zone. And those are the things that I want to see being worked on in spring training, right? Because we can't see that in the regular season. That's the Julio we need to be parting from and leaving in the past. We need to see patient, we need to see comfortable with a base hit up the middle, right side of the field. And he was swinging out of his shoes again and chasing stuff off the plate. It was like 5 pitches he
Ugh.
swung at that were off the plate. So I think he maybe got a little amped up after hitting 2 home runs. I get it. Well, not really, because I didn't rake in college. I think I had 1 home run in college. Can't relate. Uh, I understand that he probably feels good after hitting 2 home runs and thinks, oh, I can sell out now. I've got my swing where I want it to be. I want to see him rein it in a little bit more. And after having success, after seeing success in a game, be comfortable just putting the ball in play. We don't need you swinging out of your shoes, dude, and chasing um, balls a foot, 2 foot off, 2 foot, 2 feet off the plate. I know that feels really nitpicky.
No, I think that's fair. I'm gonna cut you there because I think that's fair. Like that's been a thing with Julio though,
It's been
right?
a thing.
Like
And
it's
he was
why
falling
it
over
looked good as the
himself.
season ended because
Yeah,
he cleaned that up. And I don't
yeah.
know if they're being more lax because it's spring, but like I mean the him trying to hammer these balls in Seattle when it's cold as shit is not gonna be a good idea,
No, it is not a
right?
fruitful endeavor.
And when we get
Mhm.
to a game in April and he's swinging out of his shoes with runners in scoring position in the eighth inning in an at bat that would change the game, and he goes for something that you know
Yeah,
is Martin Maldonado still in the league? Like the Martin Maldonado was blocking, like
I think so.
someone picked him up, I think.
Yeah.
You get the point though. Like it's going to happen. Um, unfortunately, and that's gonna change the ball game. Like obviously I always have the philosophy that they don't lose the game or win the game on just one plate appearance. We get there somehow. But still, right? Like if you're gonna be the superstar guy, the Mariners are gonna go as Julio goes, and you have the pressure on yourself to be that guy. You have to
Mhm.
make smarter decisions.
Yeah.
I don't think this is nitpicky. I think this is just the truth. Like
It's like an emotional regulation thing, I feel
it
like with him.
is.
Like,
And that's kind of the reason my dad was so upset with DK Metcalf all the time. I
oh,
tried to be a little bit more, because he only had, I went and looked up. He didn't have that many like personal foul calls against him this year. But
no,
that's,
he
I
was
had,
better this year.
yeah, but that's why I know some people were upset with him because he was like, oh, like, he can't control himself. And
Right.
then it's like, oh, well, he's going to go and play with George Pickens, and that's going to be fun. Um, can't wait for when they fight each other on the field.
They're gonna
I
trade him.
you gotta be able to yeah, it's just being this like smarter or
Yeah.
even like and this is where this is unfortunate, having a veteran guy like a Carlos Santana would be great to say, hey, you don't need to do that. And it's a
Yeah.
guy that like he can relate to, and it's not just some white man from Texas telling him that. And he's just
Well, and
like,
I think that's what Edgar has been for him. And
yeah,
that's what kind of got me thinking about it was in that third at bat of that game. I immediately was like, man, I wish I could see them cut to the dugout and see if Edgar's in his ear. I hope he is. Um, and then he had another, bad plate, a couple plate appearances after that. And so I just, while we are observing things over these next few weeks, would love to see him not overswing after a couple good plate appearances and just be fine with a base hit. Base hits are fine. I don't know who says that. Someone really smart, I think, says that base hits are fine,
Cal
but
Raleigh
they
says that.
are. They are. Cal knows ball.
Well, we knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's totally fair. Like you told me you wanted to talk about like plate discipline and I was like, "Oh, like is this a good thing?" And then I hear that and like I didn't watch too many of the games this week because I gotta fix my MLB TV. That's right. And it was a wild week, of course. Um, but yeah, no, I mean that's just like as much as I want to defend the guy, like it's always interesting when people will say like he's not a star, da 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 da, and then you pull out like how he's been better than Griffey statistically through his first so many years and all this stuff, right? Whether it's the gold, wait, does he not? He
Yeah.
doesn't, it like goes on and on.
People
But
saying he's
he
not a
can be
star,
better.
I don't,
We're
I
delusional.
can't take those people
Well, and then
seriously.
this goes
I'm
back to an
sorry.
emotional regulation thing, right? People
Yeah,
get too
right.
high and too low with the
Yeah.
guy,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it goes both ways, right?
And I want to recognize that Julio gets that way because he cares so much. And
Yeah,
boy,
it's
if
not
there
for
is a
lack of trying.
characteristic you want in your superstar, it's that he gives a shit. Love that about him. And I also feel like sometimes when we are in an eighth inning and the entire crowd is chanting Julio, that he makes that moment a little bigger than it needs to be. And it plays out in his plate appearance. And I would just love to see one of those moments end in a base hit in the 3-4 hole instead of him swinging at a slider a foot off the plate.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, I think it all makes sense. Um, oh yeah, like when you talk about a guy that cares, that's another thing that got like was really funny to me and like you don't know what you're talking about thing was more so about Mitch Garver. They're like, oh,
Mm,
he's not trying to get better. It was, and especially after the comments about how he was getting stuff, that
right.
players should never see. And there was this one specific guy who, sometimes when I get to the ballpark early, there's certain guys who are always there that on the outside, like doing BP. They have cages behind the dugout, in case you're not aware, fans can do these like the opening week warm up they'll do, you can do that. So go and spend the $5 or whatever and go. So you know that I'm not making this up and you can sound less stupid. But like they have the indoor cages. Some guys prefer the indoor cages, some guys prefer the BP. Like Julio does a lot of work, but usually it's on the indoor cages,
Yeah.
right? Maybe like Luke Rayleigh prefers the outdoor BP. That's fine. Doesn't mean he's a better hitter than Julio, does it? No, right? So just I don't like that discourse. Uh,
No, totally with you.
like the don't care discourse. Like, yes, they
No
make a
one
lot of
works harder
money.
than Julio, man.
So, you know, yeah. Um, we'll move on from the games segment. And this is kind of related, but it's getting its own category is George Kirby. Okay.
Mm.
Um, as some folks on online put it, this is kind of like the first domino, right? Because they, as we mentioned, they have been so healthy. They have been, knock on the woods, they have been able to get through this sort of thing. Um, and this hopefully will end up being not much than more missing like a turn in the rotation, right? But back on what was this? Back on when was this? The 7th. Yeah, back on the 7th. A few days ago, this was Friday. Um, excuse me. Wow, on trade deadline day. That's right. Jesus Christ. Justin Hollander down in Peoria, general manager, called an emergency news conference, which is usually never a good thing, and
No.
said that they were shutting George down from throwing due to shoulder inflammation. So he'll likely start the season on the IL. You don't know what IL it's going to be. I'm hoping it's just like a 10-day, right? We'll see. And I think I said, yeah, I remember saying this on that Around the Sound daily wrap up show. That oh, he wasn't feeling great after his outings. Like I remember right before they announced that Matt Brash was going to have surgery, they were saying he wasn't bouncing back. And I was like, that's not good. Like when you tell me that
Yeah.
multiple times, it means the guy's fucked up.
It's not great, Bob.
Uh,
The good news is there's no structural damage.
yeah. Wow, you're reading my points here. Yeah,
Actually.
no structural concerns. It's the inflammation. As it was pointed out, he's dealt with shoulder stuff before
Mhm.
during summer camp in the COVID season in 2020. He didn't feel great coming out of a bullpen and got shut down for a month. Then when in 2021, when he was pitching for the Aqua Sox, he was placed on the IL with shoulder fatigue slash discomfort, and then returned a month later to pitch with Arkansas in the Double A. The funniest thing about this, because injuries are usually never funny, right, is that as Hollander said, George's treatment option was do nothing, keep pitching, I'm fine. Which, if you know George Kirby,
It's our Furious George.
um,
Yep.
it's just so funny that reading how Kirby wanted to keep going, but was
Yeah.
overruled by multiple people, not only in the organization, but by the agency that represents him. So, um,
Oh, bless his
everyone
heart.
everyone had to say no.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so Brittany, I just like first of all, I want to know your concern level. Second of all, I want to know what you're expecting to see from Emerson Hancock because
Yeah.
respect to people who make content and all that and whatever, but I saw someone who was like four options for, the Mariners with him going down. I'm like, it's Emerson Hancock. Let's not beat around the bush. Like,
Yeah,
come
it
on.
is. It is. Concern level is mild until I have reason for it to not be mild. Um, as of right now, it's just inflammation. Inflammation can be a result of just ramping up too quickly, a little bit of irritation, um, trying to throw when it's cold. It hasn't been terribly warm in Arizona. They've had a couple really cold days, a couple rainy days, one game that was almost going to be rained out. So, they're getting started and his shoulder's inflamed. There's no structural damage. So, my concern is mild until I have reason to believe that it's not. There's no reason in getting overly worked up. Also, this happens. And like I said before, we have been really spoiled, and it's one of the reasons why I was so against a Luis Castillo trade in the offseason, because holy moly, they are truly then at starting pitching. Do they have incredible starting pitching and arguably the best rotation in the league? Yeah. If some guys go down, is it a dumpster fire? Yeah. So I am going to just ride with the hope that it's inflammation. He'll be back in a month or whatever it might be. And accept that this happens. This is a part of the game. The Mariners have been incredibly lucky to not have any of their starters really go down other than Luis at the end of last year.
And who
With
came and pitched in after that?
and with all of that said, Emerson Hancock is a perfectly serviceable number 5 starter. Uh it was interesting to hear some reactions from people in my close circle, not necessarily online or whatever, but just towards Emerson now being in the rotation. And it just kind of put again in perspective for me how warped maybe our view has become because we've been so spoiled
Yeah.
with this rotation. Giving up 3 runs and going 5 innings is perfectly fine for a number 5 starter. And that is kind of Emerson's bread and butter. If he can give you 6 innings of 3-run ball, that's great. That's fantastic. I would love Emerson to be more of an innings eater a la Marco Gonzalez, because that just trickles down for your whole rotation, right? That would be great. The times in which I get concerned about Emerson is when he's only going 3 or 4 innings. Then I'm like, man, not super helpful. But if you can go 6 innings and keep it to 3 runs, hell, 4 runs, I'll give you 4 runs. That is a perfectly fine number 5 starter. They are sitting pretty currently. If someone else goes down, let's check back in. I will start to panic a little bit.
Yeah. That just goes back to again, we've grown accustomed to immortality. Like Emerson Hancock, you put him on any of these rosters, well, outside of right, like a five of them or so, right? He's maybe middle of the rotation, like
Totally.
it's
Totally.
and he's Like, God bless the guy because he just has to kind of take it in this
Yeah.
organization. He's never made a stink about it. He's a good
Yeah.
old sweet Southern boy.
Hmm.
Um, he'll keep working and keep getting better. And I'm not saying that he's like the next big thing, the next surprise guy, but he has been helpful as hell for when Seattle needs him.
Yeah.
And he's been a good sport about it. And then he gets these opportunities to showcase himself if maybe one day he does want out, or so on and so forth. Or maybe, yeah,
Yeah.
someone else in the rotation leaves and he gets the spot. Like, you know, Emerson's been a real good guy about that.
He's only 25 years old.
Yeah. So,
He's still a kid. He was a number one pick, number six overall. Uh, I remember Sports Illustrated did a feature, I don't know if it was 2019, of the next two big arms
oh,
to
him and
come
George.
out of MLB. And it was him and George back to
Yep.
back
Yep.
in their Everett Aqua Sox jerseys. Has he lived up to that? No, but he's still 25. So I am not writing him off anytime soon. He could have another mid year this year, and I'm still going to ride with him another year. He's young and he has so much potential. And there's a reason they drafted him number six overall. Like, they don't evaluate hitters great, but they evaluate pitchers very well. So,
Hey, I mean, if any handful of these guys that they've got in the minors end up turning in anything, that'd be great. But
sure would.
again, that isn't going to be in the near future.
No.
I don't think so, at least. Um, yeah, and then I mean, to kind of close out the show, we've kind of just got some bits and bobs, unless there's something that I didn't bring up or that isn't in the next things that you have. Um, like we've got the spring breakout roster and then some roster moves, unless there's anything I missed that you want to touch.
What I just said just made me think of Colt Emerson.
He
So
had a
real
good
great
game.
to see him raking. God, that kid is good. Is he close to MLB ready? No, calm down, people. But man, is he fun. And I very much look forward to the day he is the Mariners starting shortstop.
Brittany has a tweet that says, "Can we fast forward to when Colt Emerson is a Mariner?" Yeah. No, I mean, all that makes me think of is that, excuse me, baseball fans in the area around here will, as much as there are the folks who don't want to, well, I guess that doesn't count. I was going to say there's the folks who don't want to give the Mariners their money. I was going to say go to one of these guys, but technically it's the same organization. So, um, or maybe more alternatively, when they're on the road, like Everett's not gonna be a bad option with Laz and Colt there. I don't know who else is gonna be there. Maybe some of the other Modesto guys, like I'm sure, hopefully Farmelo comes back and hits the ground running,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There are a few guys, the Modesto kids as well, they'll come up and they'll be part of that. And then obviously the Rainiers, the right in Pacific Coast League champions. There'll be good baseball to go out and watch. It's gonna be cold as hell in the
Yeah.
first few months, but so yeah. Um, excuse me, over the past week, the spring breakout roster, which is actually, if you go back in time, the first thing that Brittany wrote about for us was last year's spring breakout roster.
That's right.
What a journey it's been, buddy.
Yeah,
We're
no
over a
kidding.
year now.
Fun stuff.
Um, that came out. That game is on March 14th at 5:05 p.m. That's this Friday, against the Cleveland Guardians prospect. The Mariners roster features 20. Hello? Features 20 of their top 30 prospects, in according to Baseball America, including 11 of their 12 top prospects in Colt Emerson, Cole Young, Michael Arroyo, Felnine Celestin, Harry Ford, Lazaro Montes, Logan Evans, Ryan Sloan. I always forget how young he is.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ. Tyler Locklear, Durangelo Senja, Brandon Garcia. Only Johnny Farmelo, who is injured, of course, is not participating. Can we give me a full list? There we go. Oh, it will be broadcast live on the radio with. Okay, thank God. On the radio, Goldsmith and Hill will be on the call for that.
There we go. Okay.
But the game will be televised on Root Sports with the Cleveland broadcasters. So we're gonna mute
Mm.
the TV and put
Turn on the
Aaron and
radio.
Gary on.
Perfect.
So okay, ten pitchers, 17 position players on the roster. Uh, the pitchers, Charlie Bylinson. Like I've seen the name before. I think he got drafted,
I think you
but
nailed it.
Durangelo, Hunter Cranton, who took that comebacker off the chin, but I imagine he's
Oh yeah.
fine. Like he seemed like he was happy, and if they put him on this roster, like I've seen a change. Um, and no sort of injury updates come out about him either. So Logan Evans, Brandon Garcia, Ashton Izzy, Grant Nip.
Oh yeah.
I love watching Nips. Jeter Martinez, Brock Moore, who's a duck. So sigh. Ryan Sloan to round
We'll
out
let
the
it slide.
pitchers. All of them except for Garcia are lefties. I mean, are righties.
Righties.
And then the position players, Michael Arroyo, Caleb Cali, Josh Caron, Falneen, Colt, Harry Ford, Carlos Jimenez, Carson Jones. I think Carson Jones is one of the Modesto kids. Yeah. Tyler
Yes.
Locklear,
Carson
Ladd.
Jones is left-handed Dylan Moore, just so you know.
Does he have the Disney princess hips too?
He looks like him. I can't explain it, but just trust me on this.
He's Puerto Rican. Will he be in pictures with his like Dominican teammates? Um, Spencer Packard, Ty Pete, Brock Rodden, Luis Swiespel, who hit a 3-run tank today.
Yeah,
Uh,
smoked it.
Jared Sundstrom, good old Ben, and then of course Cole Young to round that out. So yeah, I mean it's fun to see all the kids. Um, well, all the I guess top kids, because there are
Yeah,
guys who are not on that roster who could perform and make their way, onto some lists, right?
yeah.
Um, we'll go through kind of the roster moves to kind of tidy things up. Back on Friday, the Mariners, amongst a bunch of other different pieces of information on Friday, optioned Blas Castano and Hagen Danner to AAA and reassigned Josh Fleming, a lefty, to minor league camp. There was that. Then on Saturday, they sent Brock Rodden, Cade Marlowe, Spencer Packard, and Rylan Thomas all to minor league camp. I believe all three of the guys in the outfield there are going to be in AAA. But Packard, I don't. Yeah. Um. I mean, none of that's surprising. And then, oh yeah, I don't know how important this one was, but today, the Mariners released that all pre-arb eligible players are under contract for 2025. 24 pre-arb 40-man players have been signed through 25. This is a long list. Prepare yourself. Bizardo, Cody Bolton, Matt Brash, Blas Castano, Hagen Danner, Emerson Hancock, Austin Kitchen. He's not currently on the 40 man. Hmm. Will Klein, who looks like someone Brittany knows, Jackson Kowar, Casey Legumina, who's Paul Sewald 2.0, Seth Martinez, Bryce Miller, big old Gregory the Idea Santos, Colin Snyder, Troy Taylor and his lat strain, Carlos Vargas, and Brian Wu. Then in the infield, position players, sorry, Ryan Bliss, Dom Canzone, Blake Hunt, Tyler Locklear, Cade Marlowe, also not on the 40 man. Miles Mastroboni, Luke Rayleigh, Nick Raposo. It's kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
Leo Rivas, Austin Shenton, and Samad Taylor. Um, I don't know. Is any of that interesting to you?
No, not really.
Okay, we're not moved. We're not moved, Will Klein.
I have
Uh,
no Will Klein comments for you.
no. All I know is Austin Kitchen will continue to cook, and I will feel very
Yes.
vindicated when he's throwing leverage
Yes.
innings in
Yeah.
in July. Like,
I admire your commitment to the bit,
hey,
my
he's
man.
still going. He's still going.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, what do we have this week? Obviously, we have any last call before I go through the schedule?
No. Andres Munoz is gross.
Kick change. Kick change.
Blech. Blech.
I should find a way to make that your ringtone on my phone. Oh my God. You're gonna be calling me because they somehow acquired Vladdy and you're gonna be like, I'm gonna
Blech.
yeah. Um wow, another rare off day on the list here. I think it's like one of
No.
three.
What am I supposed to do with myself? God.
I'm gonna not say anything.
Don't.
At the Brewers tomorrow. So today, when you see this, the episode will be out before then. It's a 1:10 start. We kind of go to the 1 o'clock starts. We had a bunch of noon games. Now we move over to the 1 o'clock starts. Day off on Tuesday. Find something to do with yourself. The Royals in Peoria at 1 o'clock on Wednesday. Night game on Thursday against Arizona, 6:40. Split squad. Yes, it is split squad because I'm imagining the big leaguers play the Guardians at 1:05, and then the kids play the Guardians in the spring breakout game at 5:05. That's right, on Friday. Saturday is also a split squad game. Giants on the road at 1:05, Padres at Peoria, the Eddie Vedder Peoria Sports Complex Bowl on Saturday at 1:10.
Yeah.
And then to wrap us up on the week as we get closer and closer to opening day, the 16th Sunday at the Reds is a 1:05 start. So, who knows what the hell will happen this week, Brittany?
So
In
much.
in
I can tell you
baseball
already. We're going to have so
or
much content. It's going to blow the Seahawks podcast out of the water.
Jake and I are gonna have a long recording.
Oh, I know. I'm so sorry. I don't envy you.
It just keeps going.
It does. Yeah.
Or, as a famous broadcaster once said, it just continues.
Continues.
So, until we see you next week, who knows what the hell will have happened? We'll have so much riveting spring breakout to look at. Um, it's not even spring yet, is it?
Pretty much is. I mean, we sprung forward. I'm taking it. It's spring.
Is
Yeah.
it? That stupid rodent said no.
I don't care. No.
Oh, no. Okay, March 20th. Fuck off. All right.
Good
Well,
enough.
until we see you next week, take care of yourself. Be well. Go to some Rainiers games this year.
Yeah.
Do whatever you can to make today a great day.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, how about those M's?
Oh, I'm excited.
I know. Where are you going to watch all those away games, though?
Away games. Huh. I was thinking of coming here since, after all, Rough and Tumble is the home of circling Seattle sports.
I love that idea. Hope to see y'all here.